You know, 20 years is a long time.
Exactly, so it's gotta look good before.
Absolutely. Not only has it gotta look good, but you guys gotta be satisfied. I don't wanna enter in a relationship with somebody that's gonna be, you know, we're gonna fight for 20 years. You guys have to be satisfied with what we do. If you're not satisfied, it just doesn't make sense to even do it. I mean, when we talk to I encourage you guys to call some of our customers. I'm sure you know some of them. We have very good working relationships with them. They're involved in our process all the way through. Whatever input you'd like to give, we'll take. If there's something we can't do, you know, we'd ask that you respect that we can't do that. Mm-hmm. But maybe we can find a common solution that meets everybody's objectives.
No, it's really, I mean, you know, the initial thought right here is obviously the appearance.
Right.
You know, it's going to be there a long time, so, you know, it's got to be landscaped, you know, et cetera.
Absolutely.
And, you know, in some sense, as much out of sight as possible.
And the only thing I can say to you is drive up the Northway, look at the Meridian's building. You won't see it already up there. I mean, now that you're looking for it, you might see it, right? But we're very conscious with that. As I mentioned, we paint the conduit that's blended into the building. On the other hand, you know, you guys are talking about ground mount arrays in most of your installations, and those will be noticeable. I mean, I can't do anything about that. But we'll work with you guys to make them as inconspicuous as possible. I mean, there'll be big black walls and panels, and you know, we'll do whatever it takes.
My only other thought is, I mean, if it's possible, we have a question?
I just had a question. You had mentioned NYSERDA has changed the rules multiple times, which we know happens, but like with Meridians, if they do change, are the rules that they were developed under grandfathered?
If we start a project today with you folks, and we submit that application to NYSERDA, the rules, there's an online system that we have to enter a tremendous amount of data. The rules, once that submission is in, those rules will hold throughout the project.
Okay.
If the rules change positively, we might come back to you folks and say, look, we're going to back out and re-enter. But from a negative side, you know, they're protected.
Okay.
The only other thought I had, and you know, in terms of the board, if you have any other questions, but for myself, obviously, you know, we're going to give it some thought, but the really smart people in the room aren't really sitting up here, they're back there. I'd like to, again, you know, after some feedback from the board, but, you know, if it's possible for you, your son, or your team to come and really talk to our planner, planning board, zoning board, you know, our code officers, I mean, these guys are smart guys here.
Absolutely. Well, we could.
So I'd like to, you know, let them absorb some of it. I'll, you know, give them my copy for them to review.
We have another copy here.
Okay, yeah. And
well, also, if I may add, George brought up a really good point this week about snow, and which do it snow, like at the main pump house. And so these are issues that, you know, George has to be, to sit with you and everybody, so that we all understand, well, no, so mostly you understand what constraints they work under every day. But I think, you know, because George was not available when we went with Mark Richardson, our engineer, to look at the site. So that was unfortunate, but Mark got the chance to see, and you know, you got it here in this. So now we got to just get George's input, and he's a pretty reasonable guy. So.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, we'll make adjustments. We made a suggestion. You know, we're very willing to be flexible. Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Oh, you got a question?
Yeah.
So this is a growth and a transition question as well. Should we have additional power needs in the future? Are you going to install a dual, or are we going to preserve a dual power source system here? We're going to have one solar and keep the grid meter as well?
Absolutely.
So that'll be a 2-metered system then?
Mhm.
One for you guys, so we can see consumption on that meter,
Right.
and the other one. So how does that power get balanced, if you will? In other words, we only want to use the grid, since we paid for your system,
Mhm.
if we overconsume your 110% or whatever you committed to.
Well, first of all, just one clarification. You haven't paid for our system, you paid for the power, right?
Right,
And the power is flowing into your panel as a slightly higher voltage than the power, you know, that's coming from the grid. So you will consume our power first, right? And if there's an excess, it'll flow back through the grid meter. And that's a function called net metering.
net metering?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll put that in then.
Right, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And I want to also point out, we have to do that because, you know, in the winter, and it's 7 o'clock, 4 o'clock out, right? It's dark outside. You know, we can't produce at that point in time. So we always maintain a connection with the grid. There's another side to that, and I just want to make sure nobody has a misconception. We cannot be used as backup power. When the grid goes down, we are obligated to also shut down. So our system automatically detects when there's not a second source of power. The reason for this is, if the grid goes down due to some type of emergency fire or wind or whatever, and the grid goes down, and you have linemen out there on the pole trying to fix whatever's doing, right? And we don't want to push electric back into the grid. So we are obligated to shut down, so please don't think of it as, you know, there's a backup benefit here, because there isn't. We can't by code do that.
So I guess you answered my second question too, is your active real-time, no battery?
That's correct.
Okay.
We're looking at battery for different aspects of the power environment, but when you start looking at the cost of a battery versus the benefit, it's pretty horrendous. So we actually look at it a slightly different way, and that is when it net meters, so when it goes back into the grid, you're actually getting a credit from the grid. Grid is obligated to buy the power from you. So you're effectively selling it to them, and if you need it back, then you're simply buying it back from the grid, and it's a net zero exchange.
It's net zero?
Yes.
They buy it at the same rate they sell it?
It's a retail price. There are differences in the form of things like, for example, if we put an array here, one of the charges you'll see on the bill is something called delivery charge. We don't charge a delivery charge for the energy we deliver, right? It's being produced right here. The grid will charge you a delivery charge. So there are differences. And, you know, we have actually a number of customers right now that during the summer months, their grid bill is zero. Or actually, that's not true. It's the cost of the meter. It's a $56 charge, because that's what the meter charge is. But they're using 100% of the energy from us. During the winter, that reverses.
So another storage question. Do you store energy at all from your system in like capacitors? You said you didn't do it in
Absolutely not.
batteries. Okay.
No.
Okay,
We have no, we use the grid, you know, through this
good. Right.
financial exchange as our storage vehicle.
That's your well, that's your energy well.
But you know, may I,
Yeah.
because I have a solar system on my house.
Right.
And it's kind of like putting, not dollars, it's not a dollar transaction, it's a kilowatt hour transaction, where when you overproduce, when you use less energy in the building than you're producing, then you're putting kilowatt hours in National Grid's bank that you can draw on later.
Okay, so there's no.
And that's
no
what Alex,
conversion
when he
like-
says a net zero exchange,
Right.
that's
Okay.
exactly what he means.
Sometimes it's difficult, the kilowatt hour concept is a little tricky sometimes to deal with, but
Hour to
that,
hour.
yeah, but that's exactly what happens.
Are you able to monitor remote location via cellular where you may not have an internet connection?
We can. We don't like to, but we can, because the charge for the cellular thing. But I think some of these things are out at water towers or out somewhere where you more than likely don't have internet connection. So we're going to be, I'm sorry?
None of my sites have internet.
Yeah, I don't like your sites too much, but having said that, you know, we will figure out a way to communicate with them, because we need to know what's going on at those sites all the time.
So it's not a hard requirement, the internet connection.
If there's a building, we need the internet connection. If there's, I'm sorry, we need communications with the array.
Or you could put a cellular system on your array and
Right.
communicate.
Right. If there's a building that has internet, then we request that we use the building internet.
So just to go back to the cost savings, so the town is still going to be using National Grid at some point, obviously, when we're not producing on solar panels. So how are we actually saving is because when we use your power, it's actually at a reduced rate compared to NILO or the National Grid,
Absolutely.
and that's where the savings comes in. So how do you anticipate your costs changing over the 20 years? As obviously the National Grid is going up, are you going to see your rates going up as well?
As part of our proposal, we show a 1.75% annual increase in our price. You know, I think the average bill here would be something, and I'm just going to the first one, what's that, it's about $100 and some odd a month, so 1.75% is what, $2 a year, right? It's a nominal increase. One time during the contract period, and only one time, if the price of energy goes up by more than 5% that year, we get to one-time increase instead of 1.75%, we get to increase 2.25%. But that's it. Other than that, it's a flat 1.75% increase.
That will occur or may occur?
If the 1.75 will occur.
Will
yes.
occur.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So you're not tied to an index or any?
I think, I don't remember what they're paying per kilowatt hour, do you remember? But, you know, we're charging you guys 4 cents a kilowatt hour. That includes delivery, it includes, if you look at a commercial bill, all the different line items that are measured in kilowatt hours. So your price must be somewhere around 6 cents a kilowatt hour total.
That's cheap.
Yeah.
My total is about 16 cents.
Yeah, but that's including demand charge.
That's everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Lumping it all together.
Yeah, we don't factor in demand charge savings into our calculations, because we don't know when that demand is going to occur.
So in 3 years, fusion becomes reality and prices for energy goes way down. And what happens?
He's going to buy a fusion company.
A, I'll
Different
buy
power
a
purchase
fusion company, and B, you know, fusion is out there on the horizon sometime. I'm pretty sure it's not in our lifetimes, but maybe it is.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, it would be really great.
It was a great hoax on the cover of Time magazine.
All right, is there any additional questions? We know we're pushing on, or a half hour pushing an hour. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mike, I got just one to the gentleman here. If National Grid goes down and also your system goes down, will the transfer switches on the generators pick up properly?
Absolutely. We will be positioned, I'm not sure without, doing a study of the actual electrical system here or wherever, but we would be on the other side, on the line side of the transfer switch.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We have to be there.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to, at some point, maybe get in touch with Lou or Joe to give you a call and, maybe like set a smart review with, again, our engineers and planners and chairs.
Absolutely.
These guys are smart people.
And as the town's attorney, can I ask for, do you guys have a draft EPA?
The top document is the power purchase agreement. The rest of the documents are NYSERDA and Fed agreements and National Grid stuff. I cannot change any of those, but we'll be happy to talk about the PPA document itself.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks,
Thank
Alex.
you.
Good job.
By the way, thank you for the cucumbers. They were. Everybody here got given up. I just wanted to chat.
What, did he tell you, or was it a mystery? They were a mystery, all right. Showed up.
Have a great day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I guess we'll open up now for public comment. Is there a public comment? Or we'll open up for public comment, sorry. I shut it down real fast. Yes, sir.
It's too quiet, Mike, this is our blessing, but I just wanted to comment, I think the board should investigate the whole system of, of doing it, really.
Okay.
To go forward with it, instead of just letting it die or whatever. But it should take a positive attitude and go with it.
I agree.
You're talking about the soil, right?
The explanation that we just went through with the power grid.
Okay. When we invite him back, if it's okay, I'll give you a shout. If you want to come back in a small group and go through the details again with Dick, Pat, even George, et cetera.
That was an excellent question you had, Mark. So, we would value your presence at that meeting.
It was just a question of
No, but it
who wants
was,
the troops, so to speak.
yeah, absolutely.
I think the technology sounds great. I thought he was excellent. But I would want the contract to be vetted thoroughly and changed in our favor. Especially, to Tim's point, price of electricity comes down for some strange reason, and you end up on the hook paying more from this system than you would off the grid. I don't know what the odds are that that could happen, but that's the one thing that's a little concerning.
The only area of the bill that's going to affect would be that portion produced.
The 50K or whatever.
When the sun goes down and the lights are on like they are right now, we're going to get that reduced because that's from the national grid. So we're going to purchase only that slice of our pie from them at that rate. That's going to go up like $2 a year.
So what percentage of the overall pie would be delivered by the system?
I don't know yet. I got to look at the numbers, but like in my house, I guesstimated it was going to be, I calculated 20% that my solar panels, I got 44 of them, were going to pay 80% of my total usage for a year. And I just passed the 1 year mark, so after I make all the calculation, I can tell you. But I think it's in the neighborhood of 30% that I'm paying. So it's a pretty big slice for me, but I don't think it's that big.
He wouldn't commit to the actual percentage.
Right. And I mean, when you look at the pump house, I mean, you're talking about some real major three-phase power that's coming out of there. And those solar panels are only going to give you a little, 5 to 10%, but it'll be a significant chunk of money for us.
I think it's good.
Yeah.
So it's more than 50 kilowatt hours?
Pardon me?
He was saying he could do 50 kilowatt system?
50 kilowatts.
Per meter. Right, and the pump station is more than, a lot more than that.
I mean, you go down and look at those motors. I mean, George, how many kilowatt hours a month do we use? Do you know off the top of your
He's
head?
got us down here for 48,000 for the year. You would say, where he's got figured about $2,000
Yeah.
I gotta look at the numbers again, but,
and about $700 for the town hall first year.
Joe, do you see much of the overproduction and where you're getting a credit?
oh yeah, during these summer months when the days are long, I mean, my meter is running backward now.
Right.
And since April, I put 2,000 kilowatt hours in the bank. in National Grid. And so what happens when October and November come, the days get shorter, well, then I start drawing on those credits, and my bill stays flat. So that's gonna happen with our town, town hall and the pump station the same way. So, yeah.
All right. All right, let's pick up the pace here a little bit, folks. Otherwise, I will be yelling at me again. You okay, Karen? Pause?
No, go right ahead.
All right, so we're going to close the public meeting, or public comment piece of the meeting here, and move into minutes. Last town board meeting, the 6/12 town board meeting, we tabled the May 8th acceptance of the town board meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve, reject, or table, or accept the town board meetings from 5/8/2012?
Mike, I gotta plead guilty of not having read it. So I'm not prepared to even.
Hmm?
I know, it's just mea culpa.
Bob?
I'm sorry. No, I've gone over them, but I'd tell you to wait for a motion.
Well, yeah, or table it again. You guys gonna, I hate to say this, you're gonna have to come a little prepared. Let's be prepared for the meetings.
Well, I'm all set on that, but I don't know if we don't have anybody else on that.
Luke?
Yeah.
So we accepted them, rejected them
This is the May 8th.
May 8th, previously tabled.
Well, this is the one that we were concerned that everything wasn't put into the minutes.
That's correct.
Have we had an updated copy done?
No.
Well, then I would say we would reject them.
Okay. So is that a motion?
I'll make the motion, yes.
Do you have a second?
Yes, I'll second.
Move seconds. All in favor?
Abstain.
Esposito,
Yes.
Jazinski,
Abstain.
Myers,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
And with respect to these minutes, again, it's not critical, it's not mandatory that the town approve the minutes, but it is recommended, suggested so that we have an approved set of the minutes of the meeting that happened in case we need that at some point in the future. So I would encourage the board to take a look at these minutes. If you do have concerns, express what they are and suggest changes to them. And if Kara still has the tapes available, I'm sure they can use those to determine exactly what changes you want
What are the issues?
to have made, what are the issues. The minutes can be amended by the board and then approved so that we would have a final amended version of the minutes. And now I'll shut up.
Okay. For the for the June 12th meeting minutes, we have a motion to accept, reject, or table the June 12th meeting minutes.
Make a motion to reject them.
All right.
Is that Lou?
Yes.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, guys, since these are the most recent minutes, if you've had a chance to review them, if there are particular issues that you have with the minutes, then maybe you can suggest changes to
Well,
the
there
minutes.
were statements made here by one of our council members. I don't see it reflected in the minutes.
Okay, do you remember which of those
Yeah.
statements it was?
Yes, I do.
Can you recall them now?
Yes, he called, one of our council members called people in the audience mutts. I don't see that reflected in the minutes.
I think what Peter's trying to say, typically, I think historically, with the approval of minutes, if there were changes that you wanted, added, wording, tweaked, whatever, typically the minutes are approved with changes if changes are are necessary. This whole concept of outright rejecting minutes seems kind of foreign, so.
It's unusual, and I think the idea behind the minutes is to make sure that what the actions that the town board took are adequately reflected, and that's typically what board members look at when they look at what the minutes are. The minutes are not intended to be a verbatim recital of what happened. If you want that, you get a
They should be
court reporter.
accurate.
They should be accurate, but they don't necessarily need to include word for word of exactly what happened and descriptions
I
of,
understand.
so.
So is it
That's-
accurate?
If those comments weren't captured,
So that's not my question.
well
Are the
then,
minutes, what's reflected in the, is something in there wrong? That's what inaccurate means in my mind.
and inaccurate means that to me, it wasn't captured. So, I mean, I'm fine with, if we're gonna just capture just minutes approval being actions or resolutions, and take any comments off the table, that's fine, if that's what we're trying to get to. If it's gonna be kind of cherry picking of comments from either the audience or not, then they should be completely accurate.
In other words, we need to be consistent on that.
Right.
What's right for one, right for the other.
If, what I would think was if a citizen stepped up and said, I have an issue with the sign in front of Town Hall, for example, then that's how it should be reflected. Citizen Joe has an issue with the sign. It doesn't have to get personal, it doesn't have to get anything, that's it. Period. So I'm fine with, again, even tabling this item, but, and maybe or working at a new format for minutes. But if we're gonna be taking comments selectively, then that's, I think, is inaccurate.